Hello there. My name is James Dunn. Everybody call me Jim. If you're wanting, imagine that some of you are wanting to know about the shenanigans and goings on, the things that happened in the Wild West mining town. Well, you couldn't come to a better place than Park City, Utah. And you couldn't ask a better guy to talk about it than me. Because when I came here, I came as a young miner, and then I became a coroner, and the last part of my life I was the judge here in Park City. That was during Prohibition. If you know anything else you know about Prohibition, there's not supposed to be any drinking going on. Well, Park City, there was a lot of drinking going on. And a lot of the cases I had to handle were due to drunkenness. You know, they used to have fights in the bars, and the sheriff would generally let them go unless it spilled over to the outside onto the main street. And then he would go and arrest them and bring them down to me. Or if they started breaking things, they would get arrested too. So they bring them in, and I would generally find them. If it was a first offense, it'd be like they'd charge them $10 or 10 days in jail. For a serious repeat offender, it was $50 or 50 days in jail. Have you been to the jail on Main Street? That's not a pretty place, let me tell you. It's not the Hotel Utah. Anyway, they were given them a choice. They would always pay the fine. But I had a lot of drinking offenses. Anyway, in 1 month, in April of '29, I had 50 cases before me that month. And if I remember correctly, there was 28 or 29 of them with drunkenness. That's not bad for a town during Prohibition. It wasn't supposed to drink. You know, Park City was known as the wettest town in Utah, and that wasn't because of the rain. Well, I had a lot of cases, but I had some serious cases too. I had a murder case involving Jimmy Burns. Jimmy was a prospector. He was prospecting over on Bonanza Flats. It's about 4 miles south of here. I got a croak in my voice here. It's not like I need a drop of whiskey, I think. Well, he was about 4 miles south. He was working his prospect. And then Joe Whitford came along, and with a couple of his mates, and they started causing trouble around Jimmy, and Jimmy said, "You better get the heck out of here." Next thing you know, Joe pulls a revolver. Well, Jimmy shoots him, kills him. So I've got a case before me, a murder case. Anyway, I heard the case, and I decided that it was self-defense. Shouldn't be pulling a revolver on a miner's property like that. I also had a pretty bad case as a coroner. There was a young lassie working in the Red Light District. She was pretty popular with the young miners and maybe some of the old miners too. Her name was June St. Clair, and they heard a scream from where she was living, and there was a awful scream. They went in, and they found her on the floor. She had been stabbed to death. Anyway, they found a trace of blood around our house, and they traced it back to this house, and they found Pedro Caño, and he'd got blood on him, on his hands and on his shirt. Anyway, they arrested him for murder. I had to go down to my court the next day for a hearing. When I got there was over 150 people with ropes. They wanted to string him up. Anyway, the sheriff clerk and I talked him down, and we managed to calm him down. And they left and said, let law take its course. Anyway, we shipped him off that day to the Colville jail. Anyway, he went for trial at the district court in Salt Lake, and they sentenced him to execution. And a couple of years later, he was executed at the Utah prison over there in Salt Lake. But I loved my time in Park City. It was a great town, good people, miners. And I should tell you about how I got here. I came in when I was 16 in '84. But I came with my sister and my mother. But my dad had come out 2 years earlier. He'd come out to America and managed to work his way to Park City and got a job in the mines here. My dad he came in to work in the mines, and he worked in the mines till he was 74. And he was working the night shift at the Daily Judge Tunnel. He was a night watchman. Anyway, he slipped and fell, and they didn't find him until the next day. and unfortunately he died shortly after that. But anyway, back when I came here with my mum, and I met up with my dad. They're both buried here, by the way. My mum and my dad are both buried next to me here. But I got a job when I first came as a typesetter. I'd worked in Stirling. We were all from Stirling in Scotland. And I was a typesetter at the local paper. And when I came here, I got a job in the Park Record pretty soon after I arrived here. And I worked that for a while, but then I found the money was better if you work in the mine. So I got a job in the mine, and I was a timberman. And what we used to do was cut and set the timbers into square sets which would support the roof in the mine. We learned a lot of that from the miners in the Comstock who'd come over and worked in Park City, the boys in Nevada. And they would develop square setting. And so I was actually a woodsman. That's one of the reasons I'm buried here. It was the Modern Woodworkers of America was one of the societies I joined. And after that, anyway, I decided to get back to the surface again, and I worked in the postmaster. I was assistant postmaster, and then postmaster. You got to know a lot of people, a lot of goings on as a postmaster. And then after that, I got into politics a bit, and I was the county treasurer for 3 terms. And in the beginning of the 1920s, people persuaded me to run for city judge, and I ran, and I was a judge throughout the 1920s. But as I said, they're good people here in Park City. I forgot to mention to you, I just remembered something. My wife will be upset about this. Sorry, Ada. My wife, I'm married Ada Hoffman. We had 4. She was from northern Utah, from Brigham City. We had 4 kids: Ada, Ella, Annie, and Dorothy, and bonny lasses, all of them. Anyway, I guess you're wondering how I ended up here. I retired from my judging in the early 30s, and I was getting a lot of bad stomach pains. Anyway, they finally persuaded me to go down to the hospital, the LDS hospital in Salt Lake. I got down there and they operated on me. It was a bad hernia, they said. Anyway, it turned worse and I died shortly after that. But they had a big funeral for me here. In fact, there was so many people, they changed it from the church to the Elks Lodge. I don't know if I mentioned I was I was president of the Elks Lodge in Utah, throughout Utah. So there's a lot of people there. And then after the service, they brought my coffin down on the back of a fire truck. I was one of the founding members of the volunteer fire department here. I don't think that's been happened before or since, that they brought the coffin down to the Glenwood here in the back of a fire truck. I should just want to read you a little bit before I go from what the Park Record said. Let me read it here. It says, "No citizen in Park City was ever held in higher esteem or more beloved than Jim Dunn. This is because of his genial friendliness and cheerfulness and helpfulness to those in trouble or distress. He believed in the Father of God and the brotherhood of man." That's pretty good. Well, thank you. Thank you for listening to my story. And I hope you'll come back and visit me again here in the Glenwood, as they say in Scotland, hasty back.
Glenwood Cemetery is in desperate need of restoration of these fragile headstones and the cemetery grounds in which they rest. Please join Park City Museum's efforts to preserve these beautiful pieces of art while protecting and promoting our historical legacy. Donate by visiting the website below and be a part of keeping Park City's history alive. Thank you.
Now my little Bess, now she goes on sleeping with a ruthless killer set on straight to hell. I know I'll see her up in hell. It won't be long, I'm right.